Okay, so I know we are here. We've got one more. How many people here like beer? Okay. More importantly, how many people here like wine? All right. Well, we got the godhead of wine. He's the head wino. This is the guy who has taken wine out of the wine store and put it online and made it interesting and fun. Gary V.
Everybody that's leaving is making a substantial mistake, but I'm just saying. Okay. It is water. Got to turn into wine, right? Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for giving me this platform and sticking around late to hear this last talk. I want to talk about the things that I'm passionate about, which is what I think is a substantial shift in business. And I know my title to this is The Future of E-commerce or something like that, but I probably won't be staying so much in line with that. And I know that we're not supposed to have questions from the audience, but I think all of us can come up here and brag about all the things we've done, but I think that gets a little bit boring. So I think it'd be really cool if we can ask some questions, because we're all talking about interaction and social media and all that bullshit, and then we stand up here and give you presentations. So I'm not gonna give that much, thank you, right? Seriously, how is it, anyway. So I have a good feeling that the far majority of you have no idea who I am, so I'm just gonna ask, this way I'll spend a little time. How many of you guys know my spiel? Raise your hand. All right, that's an ego killer. All right, so let me give a little bit of background of what I'm about. I was born in Belarus in the former Soviet Union, and my family immigrated to the US in 1978. And we were very poor, and we lived in a studio apartment, 1/8 of the size of this runway, with 9 family members, and my great-grandma was completely insane, so it was horrible. And rest in peace. And my dad got a job at a liquor store in New Jersey. We lived in Queens, New York, and he commuted to New Jersey every day to be a stock guy, and probably lost money on gas, considering what he was getting paid. But obviously my parents are my heroes. They worked very hard, and my dad eventually became a manager, and then eventually became a part owner, and then he opened a small store in Springfield, New Jersey, called Shoppers Discount Liquors. And we sold a lot of beer and liquor. And at that point, I was already full-fledged lemonade stand, shoveling snow, and then had a humongous baseball card business when I was 13. I was making about $2,000 a weekend selling baseball cards. And then I turned 14, and my dad dragged my ass to the liquor store and paid me $2 an hour to bag ice. And I hated it, and I cried every day, a lot. And then, luckily, when I was about 16, Wine Spectator, which is a very big wine publication in the US, named the Caymus Special Select, a wine from Napa, the wine of the year. And that day, everybody came in asking for it. And by the 9th person, I asked, why is everybody asking for it? And I said, why do you want it? And he said, how much do you want? And the guy said, I want 10 cases. I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy's an alcoholic. But when he told me that he was collecting it, that was the hook. Because I loved collecting sports memorabilia, that was my entry into the wine world. And so I got involved in my family business. And in 1997, I launched WineLibrary.com. And that was a good move. There wasn't a lot of wine shops online. And from 1998 to 2005, when I ran the company, we went from $2 to $60 million in sales. And then in 2005, I turned 30 and kind of freaked out, because I wanted to buy the New York Jets, my favorite sports team, and I didn't feel that I could make $2 billion selling wine. So I started thinking I needed to do something different. And so all the developers at Wine Library sat right next to me. And I started realizing in 2005 that they were watching at lunchtime 2 things very feverishly: Rocket Boom and Zay Frank, the show. 2 very early bloggers, video bloggers. And I was like, the first day I really kind of looked at what they were doing, I was like, holy shit, this is going to crush television. I need to be a part of this. So I let the holiday seasons go by, and in February 2006, I started Wine Library TV. And Wine Library TV is a daily video blog I do 5 days a week where I sit in front of a camera and drink wine for 25 minutes, and somehow 120,000 people a day watch that, which is awesome. And that, I did that every day. I hustled. The first month I started Wine Library TV was the first time that Wine Library did not grow 25% from the year prior. So I made a substantial financial commitment in building this show. And what I did was I got into the trenches, forums, Facebook I stayed away from because I didn't want to be the creepy old guy peddling wine to the kids since it was still a college play back then. Twitter had like 3,000 users, so really I went old school, forums and blogs, and became part of the community. That led to a lot of television, Conan O'Brien, Today Show, all this stuff, signed with big agents, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, 2008, I decided to start talking about business, what I believe is really happening. And companies started asking me to come in and consult. I started speaking at a lot of events like this. And late this year, in the spring of this year, I came out with a consultant agency because my brother graduated from college called Vaynerchuk. And now we are a storytelling agency for brands and companies. Yesterday we signed the NHL, the National Hockey League, which is a big deal. We also rep the New York Jets, which is my favorite football team, which is kind of fucked up because I'm growing the value of something that I want to buy. So I'm not considering myself that good of a businessman. Saks Fifth Avenue, other brands of that nature. And what I want to really talk to you guys about today is every single day, I'm going to name drop here a little bit. My favorite story is I did a wine dinner for Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel a couple of months ago. And the first thing that Justin said to me was, how the hell do you have more Twitter followers than me? I'm one of the biggest stars in the world, and and no disrespect, you're a wine guy on the internet. And so I'm going to tell you how. Whether you're an e-commerce business, whether you're a service, the reason Mark Zuckerberg flies me out to talk about Facebook or Tony Hsieh to Zappos is very simply one thing. We are living in a day and age. What I'm obsessed with, what I focus on every day, is scaling my caring. See, everybody talks about community. Everybody talks about giving a shit. Everybody talks about it, but most people don't do it. Most people don't put in the 16 hours a day that I put in answering every email I get, replying to every tweet. Somebody just said, we haven't gotten there yet to reply to every tweet. I sat and looked up Best Buy right then and there. I could do it myself. So I don't know why Best Buy can't hire an intern for $0.00 and do it. See, everybody fucking talks about it, but nobody does it. And what I'm obsessed with is this, that a little Jersey boy like me could go out and buy a camera for $300, sit down and put out content about the thing that I love the most, right? And compete with people like the Wine Spectator and Decanter Magazine and Robert Parker, who've got 25 years of equity, who've got millions of dollars behind them. And that is a huge change. When I started really realizing it, I called the Zagat family. Do you guys know what Zagat is? Zagat ratings for restaurants? So, in the US, there's a big rating system for restaurants. You might have seen it if you've ever been 25. Out of 25, it was huge. It was a multi-million-dollar business. The second day that Yelp was in the market, I called them and said, you need to pay attention to this right now, because if you don't counter this, you're going to be out of business in 9 months, 2 years, 3 years. It really didn't matter. They completely laughed it off. Then I saw them a year later, and they were kind of a little bit more intrigued. And now they call me every day saying, help, and I'm like, asshole, it's over. That ship has sailed. And so what I'm excited about is this. What I wrote that book about that comes out in a couple weeks is this, that we live in a day and age that I am convinced that 85% of you that I'm looking at right now do not love what you're doing 150%. You just don't. And in my opinion, 3 years ago, that was fine. But today, it's not. Because the cost of entry to be in the game around your passion is zero. It costs $0 to have a Tumblr account and let them host your domain for you. It costs basically $200, $100 to buy a flip cam or an iPhone that has video on it if you want to create video, or you can write or audio. Not everybody is extroverted as me. It doesn't have to be an online show. Not everybody is charismatic and handsome and smart as I am. I get it. But you have to know who you are, and companies have to know who they are. You can't be what you're not, and you need to embrace what you are culturally. That's what we deal with the companies that we talk to. Know who you are. You know, the NHL wants to be the NFL. You're not the fucking NFL. You know, get over that, understand what you are, and execute against what you are. And I think the fact of the matter is that you can build your brand now by getting your hands dirty. You know, this crazy little thing that's super, super underrated. It's called working really hard. The fact that you can work really hard and actually build a business today is so different than it used to be. Because going to search.twitter and finding people talking about the things that you do is easy. And all you have to do is @reply them and talk to them. And there's a trillion niche sites around your subject. There's thousands, tens of thousands of wine blogs. And I don't care if they're number 4 on Alexa or Compete or number 8 million. It's a person. And actually caring about the people that talk about your brand, whether they have 400,000 followers on Twitter or 7. It's a fucking human being. You should give a shit. And plus, the person that has 7, oh, by the way, might have 400,000 one day. And so I think that we're living in this insane shift where clearly eyeballs are shifting. They're going in a different direction. People are consuming media in all sorts of different platforms. And the fact that we all as individuals have the ability to tap into that with work and skills. Obviously, listen, you can be listen, I'm passionate as crap about football. I cannot be an NFL quarterback. You know, I get it. So you have to know that part cold. But if you want to produce content, what I'm obsessed about is my friend who knows more about gardening than is healthy. But he spends 12 hours a day in forums and reading blogs about gardening. And if he was to cut out 3 hours of that and produce that content, he could quit his bullshit corporate job that he hates with his whole life and move to this. Now, not overnight, I get it, but I promise you, I'm sitting in these budget meetings. There's going to be $1 trillion in ad revenue, in ad buys in 5 years, and they want to spend it in different places because debating if television works, I get that it works, but please don't talk to me about the metrics of television when we stick a box in every 4,000 homes and count it as real. Stupid. What I know is this. All of us, every person in this room, no matter what business you're in, you're all in the same business as I am. We are in the eyeballs business. And wherever, I don't know about you guys, but every time somebody comes up to me and says, well, how's Twitter going to make money or Facebook? I vomit directly in my mouth. Asshole, when you have billions of eyeballs, you can monetize. And that's interesting to me. It's interesting to me that how many people don't get it. It's interesting to me of how many people don't do what they love. It's interesting to me how much everything's changed and we've taken it for granted. We're underrating what's happened here. The internet that we all know, and I know nerds, don't get mad at me, I'm gonna call it 14 years. I get it's been around for 40 or 50 or whatever the hell. But the internet that we know, the one that if you lived in America when AOL started sending you CDs in the mail, when Windows 95 came out, that thing is 14 fucking years old. 14. Nothing happens in 14 years. The internet hasn't even had sex yet. And it is completely disturbing the way we brand and build business, how we get to users. Facebook and Twitter and YouTube get all the credit. They're fucking tools on top of the bigger layer, right? I mean, they're a marker. Facebook's a damn stapler. You know, Twitter's a bunch of markers. You know how many companies came up to me last year and were like, I've got a Twitter account. What do you want, a fucking cookie? I'm not gonna build a business off of that. What I know is this, to have the cost of entry be 0, like it is today, and to make excuses of why you're not building or why you're not caring, what I'm excited about is this. Everybody talks about how transparent and authentic it is. It really is, right? Because my DNA, gets me excited when I see a lot of people up here. And I come up here and start cursing for God knows why. And there's a lot of people that don't necessarily like the over-the-top, extroverted bravado that I bring to the table. Other people like that it's authentic and real. The fact of the matter is this, though. Because we have the ability to engage with people on a one-to-one level now, whether virtual in our underpants at home or what, is very powerful. Because for my brand, it's been very successful. For the brands that have gotten their hands dirty and gotten over themselves and gotten into the trenches, it's been successful. And most of all, the consumer has changed. You know, I don't see a pretty girl now and grab a club and hit her in the head and drag her by the hair. We've evolved as human beings. So have the consumers. They don't want to be sold to the way everybody's used to. They want a piece of it. They want you to give a crap. They want to engage, whether you're a brand or a celebrity. And if you don't adjust to that, and if you draw lines in the sand of what you want instead of what they want, you have absolutely no shot of winning in this game. And so much more is coming. How many in this room are familiar with Boxee? B-O-X-E-E, raise your hand. Not a lot. Please write it down and check out Boxee.tv. I think they might have bought the .com now. I don't know if Boxee is going to be Friendster and be too early and not win, but I can tell you right now, the concept of Boxee is going to win. And when cable television, at least in the US, that's something I understand a little bit better, when TV falls, people are going to shit their pants, because then things are going to change. Because then brands are going to be scattered. They're going to try to figure out, because what brands like to do is they like to be really lazy. They like to just say, here's $12 million. We know we get the eyeballs, or they think, because there's a box at every 4,000 homes, but whatever. And so, to me, what happens with that opportunity when everything shifts, when the eyeballs go in different places? I used to buy billboards and bus stop ads and taxi ads for Wine Library until I was walking down the street and everybody in New York City was coming at me like this. And I was like, shit, they're not looking at my ad anymore. Things change, people aren't thinking about them, and to me, there's a lot of excitement opportunities in it. And I know people are scared and shift, but the people in this room, unless you work for a gigantic company, if anything could happen that would make me excited, it would be that you gave substantial consideration. I know you guys know. Just by you guys being here, you know so much more than 99% of the people out there. But what I think all of us, including myself, have not totally, completely swallowed, completely put into our DNA is how big this shift is, how substantial this change is, and how real it is for you to build a business around the things you love the most. And I promise you, when you do something around the thing you love the most, you'll work the 16 hours a day to make it successful because you love that shit. And that work with that passion, that's who wins. It's obvious. We see it every day. That's the game. Because when you're 90 years old and laying on the bed going to the other place, you're going to care about, you wish you spent more time with your family, and you'd be like, you know what? I hated that fucking job. That was fucked up. And I don't want that to happen because now you can absolutely go and grab it. And listen, I don't want anybody to quit their jobs. You've got to pay bills and you've got kids and rent. I get that. I'm talking about when you go home, stop watching fucking Lost. Stop playing Madden football. Stop hitting the Wii tennis racket for 9 hours. Don't come to me and complain that your business blows when you've got the highest score on the Wii. Seriously. Thank you.
All right. All right. So we're going to break some rules here right now.
Yes, get the crowd involved.
I was told that, we couldn't have questions from the audience, but what the hell? Does anybody have a question? Raise your arm. Question. Hit it.
20 euros for the first question.
Okay, over here on the front row. Go.
How many room you think there is for wine lovers to make a living out of it?
How much room is there?
How many Gary V's?
That's the funny thing. I think people get ahead of themselves. I mean, I know that people see me and there's like, I have 1 million followers on Twitter and all this national press and all this stuff, and they don't think they can do it. I'm big, but I'm not that. I mean, there's so much room. I mean, it's such a big space. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have the chops. Like I said, I'd love to be an NFL quarterback, but I can't. You've got to know what you know best. And I think when you're good, there can be multiple winners, right? I mean, there's room for multiple winners if both players are good. all 3 players are good. 7 players are good. I think the markets are bigger than people understand. Plus, there's a lot of ways to monetize in different angles. I mean, for a wine guy, a lot of my early monetizing was getting paid $15,000 a night to do a wine event, right? I can only do 1 wine event. There's other wine events that need to be done. Now,
How about 25?
What's that, 25,000?
No, 25 people, 25 Gary V's.
I think it's possible. Now, I think what would be more possible is, you know, people taking niches within the wine, right? So somebody that owns Burgundy, somebody that completely owns the Loire Valley.
Strictly woody Chardonnay.
Well, that would be Napa Valley.
Strictly woody. All right. You got another question here.
And
What's,
if you see,
what's your name?
Dre Kamfraat from Interimic.
Trey Kamfra, how are you?
Suppose you got a company and you think, all right, I got some very passionate people in my company. How would you deal with them? Send them out, keep them in, and how to get them working for your company with their passion?
Well, I mean, I think if you've got people that are passionate and you've got a company, if you keep them in, they're going to keep you out. They're going to leave. I mean, eventually they're going to deteriorate. So I think what you need to do is, you know, it's a very broad question. What I do in my company is very simple. I put people in positions to win. I will hire somebody to be director of X, and 3 days in, I'm like, oh, shit. But I know why I hired them, because they were a good human being, and they had hustle, and they had heart. So I will pay attention over the next 2 weeks of what they're good at, and then put them in that spot. You know, so I think what you need to really do within that company directly for you is pay attention to what they're best at, and if that means they need to go out, then they need to go out. And if that means they need to stay in, they need to stay in. But you want to position your players to do what they're best at.
And do you kick their ass out if they're no good?
I only kick people out of my companies if they're no good as human beings. If they can't get along well with the other boys and girls, they're out. The 6 most talented wine people that have ever worked for my retail company have been fired because they were typical wine douchebags.
Got it. Here's another one.
Hi, my name is Eric Woning.
Hey, Eric.
Hi. How do you, or how can we convey this, what you're telling, to our clients? How can we tell them you need to do your work extra? Because that's pretty hard as a consultant.
Yeah, very hard. I'm learning that, right? So you've got to be less scared. You've got to be in a position where you have enough clients that you can lose them. Because I was in a meeting the other day and flat out stood up 12 minutes into the meeting, looked the CEO in the face and said, if you don't fire your CMO, I'm leaving. And then he said, you need to leave. And then I left. I mean,
that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, but you have to understand why I did that. Because
you can afford it.
Because I can afford it, right? So you need to create a system where you can afford it. Instead of saying, okay, good, we've got 7 big clients, we're set. You need to be hungry and stretching yourself thin and getting more clients and not sleeping and building an infrastructure. Because the reason I had to do that was that guy was cancer. He was old school and he had no interest in doing anything right. He wanted to control the message. And if I didn't get him out, I was going to lose. And then people were going to say, oh crap, this water company has VaynerMedia, but they suck shit. And then I would suck shit.
Right. You know, who
And I don't
needs
wanna
that
suck
hole in the
shit.
head? It's like a cancer. Now, you know what we call that, right?
What's that?
Fuck you money.
But I don't, but you know what's
gotta
funny?
have that
You know
fuck
what's
you
funny?
money.
I don't have it. What I have is fuck you ambition. I'm serious.
Which is almost as good.
But it's more important.
All right. Question on this side of the house. Question. Come on. Come on.
Right there, right there.
What?
I love the questions. Seriously, it's social media. Get the crowd involved. Let me look at my presentation for the next 30 hours. Sorry. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Sir, my name is Björn.
Björn?
If you love your job, 150%, is that what you said earlier?
Yes.
How much percent you love being here today?
Right here, right now?
Yeah, you're cursing the hell out of us.
151%. This is what, you know, for me, I figured out what I'm about, right? Which is, I'm not reinventing anything. I just live it. You know, I'm not a social media expert. I've lived this every minute of my life. It's all I do. The flight from New York to here, last night I did every minute from the beginning to here. I didn't watch X-Men 3. I emailed every single person that I could. From the second they said, you may now use, they didn't even get that far, and I was on my first email, right? And, you know, that's engagement. That's giving a crap, because you have to understand, you can't fake it. See, it's so transparent right now. You can't fake it. And so you can't fake caring, not through anything. And so it has to step from the top. The one thing I will say from my standpoint, and I know some of the questions may come, almost every client we sign, we try to sign from the CEO, because I'm not interested in selling this either. So many of us are stuck in selling this internally in our companies or to other people. I have zero interest. In 2007 and 8, when I was speaking, every conference, Gary, how do we convince people that Twitter is important? We don't. Keep getting more, take advantage of this, because they're gonna get it, right? And so I'm not in the business of convincing people this is happening, because that's my competitive advantage. I know how much of this is gonna happen. Not everybody has that luxury. I think if you're really passionate about this stuff, you need to do two things. Create that second tunnel by building a business around your passion at home, at night. Let that grow, let that breathe, and then you'll start getting a little bit more frisky at work as you start building some dollars there. And what you'll find, a couple people have told me, one guy was a senior executive at a company. He started his video blog about NASCAR, and it started doing well, and he was making $200,000 a year. His NASCAR site was making $15,000, but when it started making $15,000 that first year, he started getting ballsy because he could see things were happening, and he started getting more aggressive at work because he took 1% off of being scared to get fired. And what happened was he exploded and got promoted to the number 2 guy, because this is happening. There's no confusion. Please God, I hope everybody knows this is all changing. Media, business. So if you back it, you're gonna look smart to somebody.
We used to use the metaphor of surfing.
Uh-huh.
And then when you're in the risky stage, you're hanging 10. You're on the edge of the surfboard, a little too far out ahead. We're now sitting right in the middle of the surfboard. You got yourself a great wave, and we're riding that wave.
I think that's true.
Right? More questions? Come on, show some balls. Okay, here we go.
Hi, my name is Jan Willem. I'm a big fan of your video blog.
Thank you.
So much. The first blog I saw about you was you going crazy about why because of the ROI. And since then, I follow you.
Thank you.
Can you give us a sneak preview of your next video?
Of my next video?
Yeah.
So I can't believe you asked that. It's because it's a video I'm not going to make. Last Wednesday, the New York Times wrote a substantial feature on me. It was big. It was crazy. It was very humbling. And it caused an enormous wave of criticism in the wine world. It caused super hoopla because it talked about how I was the newest critic. I was the guy. I was the up-and-coming critic. And the Wine Spectator's senior editor came out, tweeted, posted that I'm not a critic. I'm a retailer. I'm a salesman. I can't be a critic. I've got tied in interest. That ship has sailed a long time ago. People have been analyzing the data of what I rate and how. I've won that game forever because what nobody understood